Hello, I'm Jeff Brown, and welcome to the wide world of cinema. Today, I had one of the strangest movie-going experiences I've had in a long time. I watched two movies back to back. One was technically polished, massive budget, professional acting, huge franchise machinery behind it. And the other felt like it was being held together with duct tape, panic, improvisation, and human desperation. And somehow, the second film felt more alive. That fascinated me because it made me start asking, what exactly gives art soul? Not quality, not competence, not polish, soul. The first film, Grogu, was completely competent filmmaking. I understood the plot, the effects were good, the pacing worked, nothing was broken. And yet when it ended, I felt almost nothing. It didn't feel mythic, it didn't feel dangerous, it didn't feel emotionally alive. It just felt assembled. Then I walked into this Vietnamese film called Blood Moon Rite 8. And honestly, for the first 20 or 30 minutes, I thought I was watching a disaster. The acting seemed strange, people looked lost, props were weird, timing was off, characters were behaving bizarrely. And I remember sitting there thinking, what in the world is this? Then the movie revealed its actual premise. What we had been watching was not simply a movie, we were watching a live streamed one take film being made in real time. And then the movie suddenly pulled back and showed us the chaos happening behind the scenes while that bad movie was being filmed. And suddenly, everything transformed. Every awkward moment made sense. Every strange reaction made sense. Every bad decision became evidence of people desperately trying to keep the production alive. And it was brilliant. There's one moment where the boom operator keeps looking nervous and distracted. And I remember thinking, why would they cast someone acting this strangely? Then we later find out the guy simply had to go to the bathroom. And he had been trying to hold it through the entire production. And when he finally runs off set, everybody panics because the whole live stream might collapse. So while he's literally squatting by a river taking a shit, the makeup artists are putting zombie makeup on him because they realize, well, he disappears on page 10, but he comes back on page 17 as a zombie. So the crew starts improvising around catastrophe in real time. And the cue cards being held up to the actors literally say, boom operator taking a shit will return as a zombie, please improvise. And somehow it works. And that's when the entire film clicked for me. The movie understood filmmaking, not the glamorous version, the real version. The version where actors quit, directors panic, props break, people get drunk, somebody storms off set, the production almost collapses, and everybody starts solving impossible problems 5 seconds before disaster. There's another scene where an actress quits because her dog gets injured. She's the lead actress. So the director's wife suddenly has to step into the role. And after that, we learn she used to be an actress but stopped acting because she loses herself psychologically inside performances. So now this woman is running around with a real sickle while the crew is terrified she might actually hurt or kill someone. And the production keeps filming anyway because they cannot stop the live stream. And what's genius is, when I first watched these scenes, I thought they looked amateurish. Then once the movie revealed the behind the scenes reality, those exact same scenes became hilarious and brilliant. The movie weaponized my judgment against me. That's sophisticated storytelling. And then at the very end, their crane breaks before the final shot. And instead of giving up, the crew literally forms a human pyramid and passes the camera upward, person by person, to complete the shot. And sitting there watching that, I realized something. Maybe soul in art comes from feeling the human struggle underneath the creation. Not perfection, struggle, belief, improvisation, risk, human fingerprints. And the strange thing is, I've seen this before, not just in movies, in my own life. As an actor, I remember stepping onto equity stages beside people trained at places like Yale and Juilliard, actors who had television credits, actors who had years of formal training. And underneath all the fear and intimidation was the question, what matters more, technical proficiency or honesty? Because yes, acting has technical requirements. You hit marks, you learn pacing, you project, you understand rhythm, you memorize lines, you learn stagecraft. But at some point, the audience stops evaluating technique and starts asking, did I feel something real? I remember after performances of The Coast Starlight, people talking to me about Noah, not because I technically performed every moment perfectly, but because they felt him. That's soul. And honestly, I realized long before acting that this same principle existed everywhere, even in law school, even as a prosecutor. I used to compete in moot court competitions against students who were incredibly technically proficient. They knew evidence rules perfectly. They presented facts cleanly. But I had already spent years acting, so I understood something. There is a human story inside every case. I remember one competition involving a family whose husband and father had been killed at a railroad crossing. Most students approached it technically. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury. But I didn't begin there. I started with the image of a little boy waking up from a nightmare, afraid, running into his parents' bedroom the way all children do, and discovering his father was not there and would never be there again. Because that was the story underneath the evidence. The evidence mattered. But human beings respond to emotional truth before they respond to information. That's ancient. And sitting there watching Blood Moon Rite 8, I realized that's what the movie understood. Not just filmmaking, human communication itself. A technically polished performance can leave audiences cold. A flawed performance with honesty can devastate them. A screenplay can function structurally and still feel dead if the characters don't possess inner lives. That's even changed the way I write now. I no longer want characters who merely serve plot functions. I want people with wounds, contradictions, histories, fears, emotional architecture. Not Tom the detective, but Tom whose mother died of cancer, who hides grief behind humor, and whose fear of abandonment shapes every relationship in his life. That's the difference. Soul requires interiority. And honestly, maybe that's the thing I'm really thinking about after watching these two films. Not just movies, people, human beings. Because this question exists everywhere in acting, in courtrooms, in music, in relationships, in storytelling, in life. Two people can possess the same exact training, the same exact credentials, the same technical skill, yet one feels alive while the other simply feels proficient. One reaches people, the other does not. Why? I honestly don't know. Maybe nobody fully does. Because films do not possess souls, people do. So when a film feels alive, something from the human being who made it somehow crossed the gap between creator and audience. And that's the mystery. Because this phenomenon exists everywhere. Two attorneys can graduate from the same school, work in the same office, possess the same credentials, and yet one electrifies a courtroom while the other is forgettable. Two actors can perform the same exact role, and one becomes transcendent while the other simply recites lines. Two musicians can sing the same exact song, and one moves people to tears, and the other leaves no imprint at all. And even in relationships, people understand this instinctively. Two people can check every box: beautiful, successful, intelligent, funny, accomplished. And yet one person feels magnetic while another feels emotionally unreachable. One feels alive, the other doesn't. What is that invisible thing that makes one human expression come alive while another remains merely competent? I honestly don't know. Maybe nobody fully does. And maybe that uncertainty is truthful because artists have been wrestling with this forever. Why does one performance endure? Why does one song survive generations? Why does one story become immortal? Why does one human being command a room while another disappears from memory despite possessing all the same visible qualities? That's not merely cinema, that's essence. And maybe soul isn't something you can engineer technically. Maybe you only know it once the lights go dark and the thing begins. And maybe that's why we keep coming back to movies, to stories, to music, to performances, to people. Because every now and then, something crosses that invisible distance between human beings. And when it does, we feel it.